Hello, my name is Dark, and today we're going to take a look at what is Terrafirmacraft. We're in Terrafirmacraft right now, and Terrafirmacraft is a Minecraft mod built on the Forge modding framework that significantly overhauls the game and play experience to create a more realistic and immersive experience in Minecraft. Terrafirmacraft reimagines Minecraft's mechanics to focus on a real-world survival experience full of exploration and progression, requiring players to engage in a bit more of an intricate and challenging world. So what does this mean in-game? In vanilla Minecraft, loads of things are kind of abstracted and veer away from real life, things such as floating trees, for example. Terrafirmacraft attempts to ground the mechanics of the game and the difficulty into a different experience that more resembles real life. Cutting down a tree, for example, fells the entire tree all at once. Even just starting off by punching a tree, isn't that ludicrous? Like, you can't do that in real life, so it doesn't happen in Terrafirmacraft. You can see the progress bar top left, it's just not going anywhere. We need to actually get some tools to chop this tree down, so we need to make our very first stone tools by gathering some very basic materials. Rather than having other dimensions and bosses to defeat, the endgame in Terrafirmacraft is more about mastering metallurgy. Getting to steel, making a steel bucket to move water sources around is the pinnacle of technology, and this can be considered a traditional Terrafirmacraft endgame goal. We can make a bucket. Yes! All this for a bucket? You're not joking. Oh my goodness me. You'll also find the world generation has been completely overhauled. You get much more diverse biomes, terrains, flora and fauna. Biomes are also much larger, with the concept of large continents, enormous oceans, flowing rivers, more varied ores, rocks and trees, all present in the game. There are seasons throughout the year, from winter through to spring, summer and autumn, and the temperatures that you're going to experience there reflect where on the world latitude you currently are. The world has an equator where you find the tropic and arid environments, and further north or south you go from that line, you enter more temperate and then much colder climates. The types of plants that can grow are climate, temperature and water dependent, and you'll only find certain animals in their matching climates as well. Gravity exists to a greater extent in Terrafirmacraft. Most naturally formed blocks will fall if you remove what's underneath them. How much you can remove before a collapse depends on the type of block and its overall structural integrity. Dirt will fall immediately, for example, and cause small landslides, taking other blocks with it. Rocks, though, they're more stable, but they have their own limits, which if you breach, you can cause cave-ins while mining. You've got to be careful or you're going to get buried alive while mining and searching for ores. You can't even stand on leaves, you sink straight through them. It makes sense, right? Starting with the basics of surviving, you're going to need water. In Terrafirmacraft, you have a hydration bar, and that depletes and lowers faster if you're more active or if you're in a warmer place. If your thirst runs out, you start taking damage and you've got to get to some water pretty quick. In the early game, you start by right-clicking a fresh water source, essentially cupping the water in your hands to drink from the stream. The oceans are salty, so you can't drink those. And as you progress, you can start to make some vessels to carry water around with you. Eventually, you'll master the movement of water through aqueducts, and the very end game making metal buckets so that you can move a fresh water source around. Until then, you've got to make sure fresh water is always nearby and readily on hand. Eating food is also different. Your hunger depletes just like your hydration bar based on your activity level, but what you eat is really important, and maintaining a healthy balanced diet is vital to getting the most out of your hunger bar capacity and ensuring any lost health you incur can regenerate and your stamina can last longer. Later in the game, players can craft foods that hit many of the food groups all at once. Sandwiches are a favourite of mine, and they contain grain, protein, vegetables and dairy, all in the same meal. Some of these foods can be complicated to get. Bread, for example, is made by harvesting the grain, which can include wheat or rye. That can be cut into grain. It is then milled into flour. You mix it with water to create dough, and then that dough is cooked into bread. If you want cheese in your sandwich, that's obtained by using a wooden bucket on a goat or a cow. You got to collect all that milk into a barrel. Once it's full, you can add in a bucket of vinegar, which is crafted by fermenting alcohol, which itself is crafted by fermenting fruit, all several day processes, and then you seal that barrel for a few in-game days to ferment the mixture into cheese. Husbandry is also different. To get the animals to reproduce, you must find a male and a female pair. Cheese comes from milk, which can be collected from the female cows and goats, and if you breed the animals, babies can take years to grow up. Another thing to consider in Terrafirmacraft is all of your food will go bad eventually. It has an expiration date based on the type of food it is and how it's stored. Eating bad food will be detrimental to your hunger and hydration, so you need to ensure that you only eat good food that hasn't gone off. Food life can be extended by sealing it inside vessels, but it will still go bad eventually. If you try to store your food in chests, you attract rats who steal your food right out of there, so you must craft these sealable vessels in order to have fresh food on hand and keep them closed. There are also some other processes for extending food life, such as salting or pickling some foods as well. So depending on your climate, most crops will only grow in warmer months, so you must prepare for winter by stockpiling the food to last when you are unable to grow it. Crops and fruits grow on an annual cycle in line with planting and harvesting times, so you've got to plan your year around the annual calendar. And all materials in general are much harder fought, and unless you travel enormous distances and explore, you will be limited to using what is available in the area you decide to settle, so you must choose your home carefully. If you have to travel 10,000 blocks to get a certain mineral or wood, for example, you're going to be spending a lot of your time moving around. So, dangers in the world. There are the usual Minecraft hostile mobs, but they tend to spawn a lot less above ground than in vanilla Minecraft, and you'll mostly find them in caves in really low numbers. Instead, the most common threats you're going to find are from hostile animals, most of which are encountered at night. Packs of wolves are among the most dangerous, but they're most commonly found sleeping during the day. You'll also encounter bears, who are more aggressive if they have a family around them, as well as wildcats and other hostile types of animals. When it comes to the night, making a bed that you can sleep in is a challenge unto itself. You can create a straw bed, which allows you to set your spawn, but seeing how the time progresses in Terrafirmacraft, we really don't want to lose the nighttime in-game. Not sleeping is the preference, as this is one of the parts of the games that veers a little bit further away from reality, but time is precious. You need to be able to do a lot, and the more you sleep, the more time in the year you lose to get stuff done. Time in general works slightly differently in Terrafirmacraft. As there are seasons, you need to maximize that time you have in summer before winter arrives. Every day that passes is a race to ensure you have enough resources to make it through the harsher seasons. Plants don't grow because you're near them, or because chunks are loaded like it is in vanilla. The progress of processes like plant growth, all food in general, aging, animal growth, fermentation processes, they're all purely time-based, and their state will advance whether you're near them or not. So they conform more to the world clock rather than based on whether they're loaded and your proximity to them. When it comes to making the most of that time, you need the appropriate tools to make surviving efficient and viable. So tools aren't magically crafted from cubes of rock like in vanilla. Your early tools during the Stone Age of your progression are made from stones. Stones you got to collect from the ground, and you've got to have multiple stones that you knap together, and that has a dedicated knapping interface where you're essentially chipping the stones into the required shapes and combining those with sticks to make basic tools. You would use the JEI guidebook in order to figure out what these shapes are, or it's all on the wiki, but for example, you would be crafting a axe head out of stone by chipping away to create a specific shape, then combining that with a stick, and hey presto, you have your first stone axe. These stone tools really have very low durability, but the benefit is they can be crafted wherever you can find sticks and stones, which is almost anywhere where there's plains and trees, essentially. Things start to get really interesting when you start playing with metals. Now, the early metals you're going to be playing with are softer and require less complicated apparatus to melt. Copper is an obvious one, and then moving into bronze. Your melted metal eventually can be collected into ingot molds, which are made of fired clay, and most tools can be crafted using molds that you can create from clay as well, which you then pour the molten metal into and allow it to cool or submerge it into water. This process allows you to craft these finished metal tool heads, which again, you combine with sticks in order to get these early metal tools, which have much better durability and allow you to mine faster. Those early metals require a lot less heat in order to melt, so you can just melt them in fired pots in ground kilns, which are much easier to construct, but require a fair amount of resources in order to hit that high temperature and burn through each time. The more advanced you get, you can start playing around with things like forges and crucibles and eventually blast furnaces that allow even higher temperatures, all of which require specific fuel sources such as charcoal, and you need to craft billows in order to boost the temperatures high enough to get the peaks to melt some of those metals. And a lot of the metallurgy is actually about combining the metals. So in order to get a certain type of metal, you're going to need to mix certain base metals in a ratio range in a pot in its molten state in order to form something like black bronze, for example. There are multiple forms of bronze that make it stronger. There are other elements like brass that you will get to, and eventually iron, and then the steels. Once you have metal ingots, you can reheat the metal ingots and you get them to a certain temperature just before they melt. They get into a workable state, and this allows you to work that metal on an anvil with a hammer. You need to first be able to craft an anvil and a hammer of a similarly hard metal to the one you're working in order for that to be able to be worked. Once you get all that in place, you can craft all sorts of things on an anvil using the special interface, which is it's kind of like a mini game unto itself inside the game, and this interface is used to craft the tools into all sorts of other components. Getting these minerals can be difficult though, requiring lots of world exploration, keeping an eye on the ground stones and trace minerals on the surface, in combination with a prospecting pick that provides clues where you can start digging. Due to the effects of gravity, you must mine slowly and carefully using wooden supports to prevent cave-ins and enable continued mining to be able to collect the ores. However, veins are only so large, and once they're exhausted, you've got to abandon that vein and you've got to go in search of more and start a new mine. As you can see, there's a lot to the game, and it shares a lot less with vanilla Minecraft than might be apparent on the surface. It may seem like a lot to learn, but there's the in-game field guide book with loads of helpful tips to help you along your way. It shows you much of what I've discussed above, and the rest you can find out by reading the wiki or watching my playthrough series, which I'll link here and below. The big question, I guess, is why would you want to play Terrafirmacraft? Well, it's a different twist on Minecraft, and it makes what is easy in regular Minecraft a lot harder. It's a survival mod, and just ensuring you can eat all year round isn't easy. You have to think and prioritize to make the best of your given situation, and it takes a long time to get to steel production. And to be honest, once there's not much more to do without adding further mods to the game, but there's tens of hours of gameplay, maybe up to 100 just to get there, so you'll be plenty entertained on your journey. If Terrafirmacraft sounds like the sort of thing you'd like to try, check out my video on how to install Terrafirmacraft, and also how to play. I also have my full Let's Play series where I'm exploring Auto Terrafirmacraft, a combination of TFC and Create together, which extends the gameplay beyond mastering metals and allows you to start automating some areas of production once you've advanced enough to do so. It's a great combination of mods. I've been really enjoying playing in that world. So that's it for today. I hope you got a good understanding of how Terrafirmacraft is different from regular vanilla Minecraft, and I hope you're encouraged to play. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this with all about Terrafirmacraft, Auto Terrafirmacraft, and vanilla. I play them all. If you did enjoy it, please leave a comment, give us a like, and yeah, enjoy playing Terrafirmacraft. I've been Dark. See you next time. Bye for now.